What's up, guys? It's your boy, the essential John L. Crossfire, aka the real main event, aka the Rogue Soldier, and today you're about to learn firsthand just what it's like to be caught in the crossfire. But above all else, prepare yourself, because in this very moment, today, right now, you are about to be caught in conversation. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to episode 33 of Caught in Conversation. As always, I am the essential John L. Crossfire, and today we have a chat that I recently had with the current Suplex streaming champion, Benny the Backrower. Benny's phone did cut out a few times as we progressed through the conversation, just a little disclaimer, but we still had a very great conversation. Bear with us, we got some good stuff in there. It was a great look at what 2022 has in store for Benny the Backrower. Before we get into that, though, the song of the week this week is Unsaid by Citizen Soldier. This is the first release of This Is Your Sign Part 2, of course, as part of Citizen Soldier's Fight the Good Fight project. And as always, as I say on the podcast, it is okay to not be okay. The match of the week this week is The Rock versus Hollywood Hulk Hogan at WrestleMania 18. As you will learn in this conversation, this match had a very big impact on Benny the Backrower, and as many wrestling fans that have seen this match know, it had possibly the most bizarre crowd reaction in the entire history of professional wrestling. It's just absolutely bonkers how the crowd reacted to the two competitors, given the story that was at hand at the time. But again, that match is The Rock versus Hulk Hogan at WrestleMania 18. But without further ado, we talked just under an hour, did myself and Benny the Backrower. So let's transition. Let's go straight over to the reigning, defending, conquering, undisputed, I will never be as good as Paul Heyman, the current Suplex streaming champion, Benny the Backrower. Generic rock music. So, ladies and gentlemen, I am here with the current Suplex streaming champion, Benny the Backrower. And I'm not going to lie, this is a little bit weird for me, because straight off the bat, you're the first guest that I'm actually going to have that I've never actually met in person. We haven't really talked outside of setting this conversation up. So I'm going to be learning about you literally at the same time as the listeners are. So that's both nerve-wracking and exciting. I don't know if you've listened to the previous interviews I've done so far, but I've got 5 core questions that I'll sprinkle out, and then I've got a couple of questions that have been sent in, and just general questions about, what's coming up in 2022 for Benny the Backrower.
Okay.
I am actually wearing a shirt that says "Don't talk to strangers," but as I've always told my brothers, do as I say, not as I do. But the first question, it's pretty simple. I start all the interviews with it. It's a pretty good icebreaker, I feel, and that's, what was your earliest wrestling memory?
Well, that's actually the earliest memory I'd had. Struggling to stay awake for WrestleMania 16, I think it was, for Rock versus Hulk Hogan.
Ah, yeah, Hogan versus Rock at Mania 18. That's a damn good match. Like, it's nothing technical, but just the fan reaction in that match is just insane.
Yeah, so it's something that's always sort of stuck with me. Like, couldn't tell you anything else off the card. Like, would have only been 5 or 6 years old. And I couldn't tell you another match on the card, but
just
that
jumped
exact,
out, yeah.
Yeah. That, like, where they lock eyes and look out to the crowd and stuff, that sort of just always stayed with me, so.
Well, that 2-second clip, they still use that today in video packages to hype up WrestleMania.
Yeah.
Of just that little face-to-face moment.
Yeah, it's definitely one of the most iconic sort of moments that they've had.
So, were you hooked straight from that moment, or?
yeah, it was just sort of like the electricity of the thing, like, because you watch the highlight package of the build up to that match. Like, I didn't have a clue who either bloke was. And you sort of just watching that, you could sort of build up from there. But yeah, Hogan was the heel, and he'd done some pretty heinous things to The Rock right up to that point. This was sort of the chance for The Rock to get his revenge sort of thing.
You know, I remember, I think that was the one where Hogan, like, drove, like, the semi-trailer, like, into the side of the ambulance or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
that was...
And then he walks into Canada, and then because they hadn't seen him in, like, 20 years, they still cheered him anyway.
Yeah.
That's a pretty good starting point, though, for, like, if you haven't seen either of those guys, like, you kind of get a really good gauge of, like, their characters and kind of what they're all about sort of thing.
Yeah, definitely. And it showed sort of Hogan, like, if you've been watching wrestling and known who Hogan was, like, it's shown that he does have that dark side to him. Like, he's usually that, you know, American hero, whereas, like, when he's done the black and white for NWO, it's shown that
It was absolutely night and day. Like, he went from being, you know, the bright colours like the red and yellow to the black and white, and as you say, like, it's just the contrast is just absolutely fantastic, really. Like, there's, you know, it's pretty simple. Like, you look at the two pictures and it's almost like two completely different people, even though it's the exact same performer sort of thing in terms of a character, like, aspect.
Yeah, that's
So were you a fan, like, from that moment? Did you, like, start watching regularly, or?
Yeah, I used to stay up late and watch it with my dad. That was one thing that Dad and I sort of bonded over when I was growing up. Was whenever wrestling was on, we were in front of the TV, and that whole, like, 2 or 3 hours that it was on for back then, that was it. That was just what we did.
Yeah, I was very much the same with my dad. Like, you know, a lot of people know, you know, it wasn't the most perfect relationships, but, you know, whenever we're watching wrestling, it was like, all right, wrestling's on, everyone shut up.
Yeah, that's exactly it. Yeah, it was sort of the only time I was ever allowed to stay up later, because I remember it was sort of on at like 9 o'clock or something like that at night, and yeah, Dad used to let us stay out and watch it.
Yeah, I remember, because I never actually had Foxtel. I remember I used to watch WWE Afterburn, and it was on, like, midnight on, like, a Thursday, and I think I was in year 11 or 12 at the time, and my grandmother and my mother were always just like, go to fucking bed, and I'm like, but wrestling.
Yeah.
So what was the deciding factor, though, Benny? Like, once, you know, you discovered wrestling, you become a fan, like, what was the deciding factor that kind of made you yourself get into the business?
Well, from a young age, I sort of always wanted to do it. I just never ever thought it was, you know, like, going to be possible being a young child from Newcastle, New South Wales, that I would ever get the opportunity for it. But 2019 rolled around, and I just finished my last year of rugby league and decided to hang up the bit. Yeah, having a...
You cut out for a second there, mate.
Oh, sorry. Is that a bit better there?
Yeah, mate, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, so I found out the super training school having a...
You've done some pretty good stuff there at the Suplex Training School, and just at Suplex in general, especially in such, you know, a short amount of time.
A lot of faith from my trainer, Jack the Spade. He's put a lot of faith and trust in me. But do like, tools that I needed to get off the ground. He's definitely put a lot of trust in me to be able to develop and sort of progress the way that I have.
Yeah, well,
But there's been a few of us that have come out of there pretty well.
he's definitely a lot of, there's been a lot of people in Australia in the last, couple of years that Spade did have a hand in, but you guys that, you've got to give yourself credit as well, because you guys are still putting in the work. Like, he can give you the basics, that's fair enough, but, a lot of you guys, like, you're the ones that have kind of really taken that and, ran with it. So I say, even from a fan perspective, like myself and my wife, we're a bit behind now. Like, I think the last Suplex show that I watched was the one before the 3 Stages of Hell show. I'm up to the 3 Stages of Hell show now. There's so much wrestling out there, you can't get through it all. But both myself and my wife, we were very impressed watching you grow on the Suplex exhibition shows and now seeing where you are now as the Suplex streaming champion.
Yeah, definitely. Like, it's crazy how fast it's all gone. Like, I debuted. Actually, I think I got the memory this morning on Facebook to say that my debut match was 2 years ago to the day. So
It just goes so bloody fast, doesn't it?
Yeah, so in 2 years I've captured my first championship. I'm already booked to travel the country a little bit, and it's just crazy how far and how quickly things progress. Like, that's never in my wildest dreams that I think I'd be travelling the country pro.
Definitely well deserved, I'd say. Like, I feel like I've, as I said, like, this isn't me just trying to mark out here, but we've kind of watched you grow and continuing to grow, and you're definitely putting in the work. Like, I don't know if you've listened to my conversation that I had with High Octane yet, but the two of us really put over Benny the Back Row in that conversation, because you, as a rookie, actually reaching out to people, and like, there's a lot of people that will start in the business and they sit there and they're like, well, I want to work for this promotion and that promotion, and they get upset because they're not reaching out. And it's like, no, like, you have to show initiative, and that's what you've done with a lot of these promotions that you're about to be booked with in 2022.
Yeah, definitely. It's just different places and learn from different. That's essentially to do with travel the country and train with lots of different trainers to gather more information and more knowledge about pro wrestling. Like, it's all good and well to still being trained at Suplex and stuff, but it's always helpful to be able to gather knowledge from other people who have been in the industry for a bit longer than I have.
Well, if you look at some of the greatest performers of all time, like Chris Jericho or Rey Mysterio or something, like, a lot of people, a lot of casual fans, are familiar with those names as well. And it's like, they went to Mexico, they went to Japan, like, they've kind of mixed all of these different styles and all of these different, pots that they've had their hands in over the years to become the performers that they did.
Yeah.
But we're talking about Suplex, talking about the Suplex Streaming Championship. Banjo Powers wanted me to ask, when are you going to give him a title shot?
It's up to me.
I was thinking that myself, yeah. I'm like, I don't know why he's asking me. I'm just a podcast host, but Atticus...
I'll take on anyone that challenges me. I don't try away from a challenge.
Yeah, very much a fighting champion, just a fighting competitor in general, is Benny the Back Rower that I've observed.
Yeah.
Atticus Slane sent in a question as well. And this is technically an explicit podcast, but we'll try and keep this one family friendly as possible. Atticus Slane wants to know, what is the weirdest thing that you've ever seen Muzdog do? As you know, I sent out feelers, sending questions, and this is what I got back. And I literally just looked at it, shook my head, and went, Jesus Christ.
Right. So, I don't know if I should say it, but I've seen him do some pretty weird stuff. Yeah.
No, we can't answer that one on this kind of forum.
Yeah, we'll save that one for another conversation.
Well, hopefully, Atticus Slane can kind of maintain his anger issues or whatever at Western Warfare, and maybe you can tell him that one in person.
Yeah, we'll have a chat about that one in March, mate.
Right, so you just recently released kind of, I guess, your bucket list, for lack of a better term, for 2022, and you've actually got some pretty good names on here, and I'm going to segue into the next few questions based off this, but I'll quickly run through this list. You have Jackson Spade in a death match, Reverend Diath, Zero in a death match, Joel Bateman in a death match. Jesus Christ, like Benny the Backrower has just chosen death. You've got Ox King, AJ Grimm, Matt Bailey, High Octane, of course, owner-promoter of ICW Central West, which you will be debuting in March. Rip Riley, Jesus Christ. Craven, Mikey Lord, Banjo Powers, the aforementioned, Broderick Valentine, Bobby Bishop, and Tim Cade. There's some pretty big names in there, and I don't think there's a bad performer on that list. And I have no doubt in my mind that by the time 2022 is over, if, hopefully COVID permitting, fingers crossed, we are in a pandemic, so nothing's ever truly for certain, but I honestly think that you will knock a good chunk of those off. But before you get to any of those, coming up in March, as we've mentioned, you have Western Warfare 5. You're facing off with Super Crimson Mask. How familiar are you with your opponent, Super Crimson Mask?
Look, I wasn't super familiar before being told that that's who I'd be versing, but I've had a look at a few things. Actually had a look at a few takes and stuff, and I'm definitely looking forward to it. I think it's going to be a really, really fun and interesting one.
Should be a pretty big slugfest. Like, you're a fairly big boy in your own right, and a lot of the time Crimson Mask goes in there and he's easily the bigger competitor, but I feel like in terms of size, this is the first time in a while he has actually been somewhat evenly matched. So that might actually be interesting for him, but I can tell you firsthand, he has a very devastating headbutt. So if I can offer you any advice, and it's going to be a lot easier said than done, but avoid that headbutt at all costs, because once he hits you with that, it could potentially spell the end.
Oh, I'm not sure about that, man. Footy players, we don't have a brain in our heads to worry about.
Well, there you go. That might land to your advantage. You were landing on your head well before wrestling.
Yeah, so I've had enough concussions now. I'm used to them. So.
What are the chances potentially of the Suplex Streaming Championship actually being put on the line in that one? Because granted, I might be a little bit biased here, but I would very much like to see some cross promotion between Suplex and ICW, especially the ICW Central West shows in Cowra, which are also in New South Wales, along with Suplex, because those shows are always amazing, and especially this one, which is for such a good cause.
Yeah, it could be a possibility. It's sort of more up to Suplex and stuff like that. If they're cool with it, I'm happy to put it on the line and defend it. That would be really cool, I reckon, to be able to take it, to be able to take it down to ICW and test my strength down there, I suppose.
Because obviously, you and I, like you are the champion, but at the end of the day, you're just a competitor. You kind of do what you're told. I'm just a podcaster, but we'll put it out there in the universe that, hey, ICW management and Suplex management you guys need to talk it out, because that'd be some fun. Like, there's a lot of guys on the Suplex roster, like a Zero or, a Matthias Clock, a Matt Gage, that I would very much like to see in ICW. And I would love to see, an Atticus Slane or a High Octane over in Suplex as well. But before you get to Western Warfare, you're actually going to be in Adelaide the day before for a booking. Can you tell us a little bit about what you'll be doing there?
Yeah, so that's for a new promotion, Revolution Wrestling. So that will be their first ever show. They've I approached them and asked them about coming over and stuff like that, because we're really, really looking forward to getting over to Adelaide, because I've never actually been to Adelaide before, ever. So,
and what better place to do it than for wrestling?
Yeah, exactly right. I thought that's exactly what I thought myself. And there's a few of us heading over too, like AJ Grimm's heading over, Ox King, and Ryden Reeves, which is a couple of suplex guys.
Yeah,
Also
AJ and Ox King are the current tag team champions still, aren't they?
Yeah, they are. They're actually pretty cool dudes, the things, but they are. Once they get out in that ring,
they're another two guys that, as I say, I had a brief spell as a competitor, but I very much love that, although it sucks that I was kind of forced out of the ring, I very much love doing what I'm doing now, because it gives me more of a chance to kind of just sit on the sidelines and just watch all these people grow. And I'm at the end of the day, I'm just a fucking mark for professional wrestling, right? So seeing these young guys who are just as passionate as I am go out there and not only give it a crack, but just do such a damn good job of it, it makes me so happy. And they're two guys that I 100% would very much like to see over in ICW's tag division. I know I've mentioned that 2 or 3 times already, but there's so many guys in Suplex and ICW that I would love to see mix it up in some form or fashion.
And I'm sure they'd love to be there too. Because I approached them about coming to Adelaide with me, and they were very quick to say, there wasn't much thought into it either. They were just like, yeah, let's go.
It's like, hey, do you want to come? Yes, and it's like, I didn't even tell you where we're going.
Yeah, essentially. I was like, hey, I've got this booking for wrestling. Do you guys want to come? And they're like, yeah. But do you want to know where it is first? Or like, no, we're coming. We'll go.
Do you have any word on who your opponent or opponents are yet? Are you allowed to announce any of that, or is that still up to them?
That's still up to them at the moment. I think they're still just working out all the little fine print details and stuff.
In saying that, we're recording this, in the second week of January, so we've still got some time yet. But in some form or fashion, Benny the Backrower will be making his debut in South Australia for Revolution Wrestling in their very first show. So lots of firsts there. They're having their first show. You're having your first, interstate booking.
Yeah, no, it's definitely going to be exciting.
I've
also got me
continue. Sorry.
Yeah, because they're going to be they want to be sort of like a old school hardcore promotion, like an ECW sort of thing. So
okay. So Benny, this is going to be his first taste of that. Maybe that'll set up. Maybe you can make an impression there for the death matches that you want on your bucket list.
Well, I actually have my first death match on Friday.
Oh, that's right, because you have the No Ring Death Match show coming up.
Yeah, that's this Friday.
So at the time we're recording this will actually drop 2 days after that show. But where can people check that show out in the future? Is that going to be uploaded online? Is it going to be available for purchase, or are they still working those details out as well?
I think they're still working out what they're going to do with the recordings afterwards at the moment, but I'm sure that it will be put up somewhere.
So by the time people are hearing this, Benny the Backrower is going to be bruised and battered, and he's just going to be wanting to lay down in a nice cold ice bath with a beer or something.
Yeah, very, very much so. I'm very much looking forward to it, but it's going to be a lot of fun. There's a couple of the people off my list are going to be there, so
hopefully, you never know what may happen. Wrestling is always, card subject to change with or without a ring. So, you never know. Some of those ones on your bucket list may come to fruition.
Well, that's right. Well, two out of 3 of the deathmatch ones are there, so you will have Jackson Spade and Zero there. Mikey Lord is going to be there. So
I was very surprised when I looked at the list and you had Mikey Lord, but you had it listed as a non-death match?
Well, I think it's more of a, like, I was there for his return in 2019.
Dude, I've never actually met Mikey, but I literally I had tears in. I was talking to Spade about this when I saw him at another promotion in 2020. Like, I literally had tears in my eyes seeing the clip that, you know, he was coming back and stuff, knowing everything that he'd been through, sort of thing. Because although I've never met him personally, a lot of my peers know him, you know, fairly well. So just from what I've heard about him, I was just like, holy shit! Like, I had all the emotion with that one.
Yeah, at the time, funnily enough, I was the Suplex cameraman because his return was in December 2019. It was just like literally
just before your first match.
And it was the 16th of December. I remember that. Yeah, so he made his return, and it was the biggest pop I've ever heard at Suplex. One of them. It would be between that and when JB Hazard won the Suplex Junior Heavyweight Championship.
JB's another guy that I very much would love to have here on the pod, and again, I'd love to see him, you know, kind of in my home promotion and get to see him up close and personal. Hopefully one of these days I can get the funds to actually, you know, come watch a Suplex show in person and watch guys like you and Zero and JB and Ox King and AJ Graham, just your entire roster of young guys who have absolutely no business being as talented as you are for the short amount of time that you've all been in the business respectively. It's just insane.
Oh man, it's crazy. Like, Suplex are in really good hands with the young talent that's coming through. Like Zero started training the same day I did. Like, we literally showed up at the same open day tryout, and Zero took a little bit longer to get to the point where he was able to work shows. But now the sky's not even. He doesn't have a limit. Like, he just came
out of nowhere. Like, it was like, you know, Zero debuted on, I believe it was one of the Super Exhibition shows, I think, wasn't it? I remember seeing it. I can't remember what show it was. And then all of a sudden, fast forward, he's on one of your actual shows. He had an absolutely fucking banger of a match against Craven. Like, how does a guy that's, you know, barely been in the business a couple of months end up in the ring with someone the caliber of a talent of Craven? Is beyond me. But not only that, he hung in there with Craven. Like, it's...
Oh, Zero can go anywhere he wants to go in this business. Like, he's done 3 or 2 death matches as it is, and he can hang in the death matches. His normal matches are brilliant. Like, if it wasn't for COVID, I would have been lucky enough to have stepped in the ring with him by now, but I haven't really got the chance to work him one-on-one, but it's definitely on the list.
I have no doubt that, you know, as I say, COVID permitting, pandemic permitting, I have no doubt by the end of 2022, I feel Zero will definitely be one of the ones on your list that you have ticked off, and hopefully you can work him, you know, a handful of times, more than just the once.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
You know, whether it's regular match, death match, tag match, like, you know, just, I don't doubt you guys will be mixing it up at some point, but we're here to talk about you. We're putting over all the other guys, but that's just because, you know, they are genuinely so freaking talented. But of all the matches that you have had so far, the handful of matches, what is the favorite match that you have had so far in your career?
Oh, it's a tough one, actually. There's been a few. So, definitely the match where I'd won the championship. I actually got the chance to I worked with Zero and Klopp in that match, and those two, they definitely taught me a few things that I'd never sort of picked up, just being sort of a bit of a spot filler before that, but they taught me things about, you know, things that I could carry into, like, the main event scene if I ever get there. Or, like, those two are phenomenal to work with.
Yeah, well, Clock's another one. I was actually in the Battle Royal in his debut. I didn't actually realise on that night that was his official debut. I thought he'd had matches before that, because even just, talking to him backstage sort of thing, like, kayfabe, brother, but look, it's a podcast. We all know what's going on. Even talking to him backstage, just the confidence that he exudes, like, yeah, obviously he was nervous for competing, but everyone's always nervous, to some extent. So I just thought, cool, no worries. And then I found out, I think it was like a year after, that was actually his first official match. And I'm like, well, look, at the end of the day, it was a battle royal. There was a few people in there, but for me, I'm like, shit, like, I'm like almost honored that I was a part of like history, especially seeing this young dude's like growth to where he is now. And no doubt, much like yourself, where you guys are going to go in the next year or two, let alone, the next 5-10 years.
Yeah, definitely. Like, the Cox are funny ones. We don't necessarily get along. Like, we don't dislike each other or anything, but we don't really.
You're just two very different people.
Yeah, but once we get in that ring together, we have some of the best chemistry at Suplex.
I had this exact same conversation, pretty much almost verbatim, with Atticus Slane. Like, there's just something about professional wrestling, and as comes back to, as you said before, like with our respective dads, like it bonds people together for, whether right or wrong. There's just something about professional wrestling that no other form of sports entertainment, or even just entertainment in terms of movies and TV, quite do. Like, people can bond about stuff, but there's just something magical about wrestling that just kind of, it can bring together such different people.
Oh, especially like with the performers, like we all come from such different backgrounds and stuff like that. But once we're in that environment, like we're all bonded together by our love of pro wrestling and wanting to entertain the fans and stuff. It's crazy how much it like brings people together.
But speaking of matches and stuff, though, what is your favorite match of all time that you've seen? Is it the Rock Hogan match, or is there another match that sticks out in your mind since then?
Yeah, no, there's been a few. Probably Eddie versus Lesnar at No Way Out.
Yes, that's a good match.
Yeah, it was just like finally the crowning glory for Eddie, who had been slaving away for so long trying to make an impact and get to that point where he could be world champion. And he was like the first sort of smaller guy to ever win the belt. Like
he's like 5'8", right? So.
Yeah, well, that's still small compared to most.
Yeah, right. It's like, I think I'm 5'9" and like a quarter, or like whatever it is. Like, I'm 5'9", right? I'm an average sized dude, and knowing that like Eddie is my absolute hero, and it's like knowing that I'm like an inch taller than this guy, and he's been world champion. It's like, what, like that was. I had this conversation again with Atticus Slane on the actual podcast, that if it wasn't for guys like Eddie and it's a sore subject these days, but a Chris Benoit, there never would have been arguably guys like, your Daniel Bryans and your CM Punks, and even Seth Rollins. Like, he is over 6 foot in terms of height, but he's still very much viewed as a smaller guy.
Yeah, well, that's right. Like, you got as well, like Rey Mysterio and your the Lucha Brothers too. Like they're all sort of smaller guys.
Like, it was all, muscles and, poses, but they very much showed that, hey, anyone can do this to an extent, right?
Yeah.
But,
well, they just essentially showed that, like, smaller guys don't belong in the mid-card.
It's like everyone should get over on their own personal merit rather than, their look or their size. Like, I'm a very big Kevin Steen fan, right? And the amount of people that still, shit on him because he's got, quote unquote, a dad bod, like, oh, he doesn't belong. Like, you look at him, he doesn't look like a wrestler. And it's like, look, in this day and age, what does a wrestler look like, right? Like, like the older days of wrestling, like, I very much like the 80s style of wrestling, the golden era, as they call it. I still look back very fondly on that. Like, I'm very big on guys, you know, like Randy Savage or a Ravishing Rick Rude or a Roddy Piper. Like, I'm very much all over that era of wrestling. But, you know, just because you're all jacked to the gills and, you know, you're 6'4" or whatever, you know, it doesn't mean that you look like a wrestler. Like, you look like a bodybuilder, if anything. Like,
Yeah, that's right. Like the days of jacked up, roided wrestlers, they're gone now. Like it's all on ability these days and what you can do, which is how it should be. Like, yeah, essentially behind the scenes, as wrestlers, we've got to be able to keep each other safe. And I don't care how big and strong anyone is. If I can't get in there and feel safe with someone, then I'm not getting in that ring.
well, I remember, I can't remember whose podcast it was on, but Vampiro was talking about how he was working Lex Luger, right? And everyone, you know, knows Lex Luger. He's, you know, a fucking Adonis, right? He looks like a statue. Apparently, they had a match, and Lex Luger was struggling to do a simple body slam to Vampiro, no matter how much Vampiro posted for him. And it's just like, it comes back to, as you say, like, no matter how big or strong you may appear, it's like, can you still execute A, B, and C in a safe manner?
Yeah, that's exactly right. Like,
But keeping the ball rolling, we talked about your bucket list for 2022. Your couple of upcoming, you know, bookings in the near future, and as I said, I don't doubt there's going to be more that comes out at the tail end of the year. But who is like your ultimate dream opponent, or a couple of dream opponents?
Well, I'll try and stick with Australian wrestling. It would be Damien Slater or Robbie Eagles.
Two very, very good picks.
And if I was to leave and go overseas, it would probably be probably Chris Jericho. You know?
Well, I remember the first time, actually, speaking of, right, because as we say, like, you know, you're a fairly solid boy. The first time I saw you hit a lion salt in a match, I literally looked at my wife and was like, where the fuck did that come from?
Yeah, that's actually a really funny story how I developed the lion salt. So, my first ever day, I rocked up to Suplex. I actually asked JB Hazard, I was like, does anyone use the lion salt? He's like, no, most people sort of consider it to be a bit of a dangerous move because you've got to jump off the rope and stuff, and people are worried about the rope snapping. And so from that, I was like, I'm going to use it. And everyone sort of looked at me, they're like, it's your first day of training. Why are you...
This fucking spot monkey over here.
Yeah. And then from then on, I just, like, I'd done a bit of training and learnt the basics and stuff like that. And then I got to a point where I started doing moonsaults. I got to the second turnbuckle and done a moonsault off the second turnbuckle, and then looked at the middle of the rope and was like, I reckon I could do that now.
So I've got the basics down now.
Yeah.
Can I hit it while running?
Yeah, so I tried it and I done it. It's actually on. So with you, Tyler Gunn.
Yes.
Tyler Gunn's released he does like his own sort of like vlog, and actually on one of his vlogs, like one of his earlier vlogs, you can actually see me hit the line top for the first ever time.
Oh, nice. Okay, and does it show like the guys like reacting to it and stuff?
Yeah, it was actually just me, Zero, and Tyler at the training
I'll have to go seek
it was
that
on
out.
It's on the episode. It was called Making Chicken Salad or something like that.
Ah, okay, yep. And
yeah, so...
What inspired the balcony moonsault?
Oh.
Because I watched that with Nick Maltino, and again, we were just like, you fucking what?
Yeah, so, funnily enough, I rocked up on show day, and I was there pretty early, and I was standing there with Spade. He goes, I reckon you could moonsault from up there. I said, yeah, I probably could. I don't know how keen I am on doing it. Well, anyway, he comes to like the show meeting and he goes, all right, so you got a moonsault from up there. Moonsault from up there. And I was like, oh, really? He goes, yeah. I'm like, can I at least spell a beer before I do it? He's like, you can if it's out of a shoe. All right.
Jesus Christ.
I was like, okay, all right, I can do that. So that's how that came about.
Oh my God, the shoey salt, we'll call it that.
Yeah.
Because like we're watching this and like all I'm thinking of is like, you know, super crazy and like ECW, right? And like obviously he's an actual like luchador and then here's Benny the back rower like, fuck it, I can do this, why not?
Yeah, I do back my own ability a fair bit once I'm in the ring. It's more of a, once the cameras are on, it's like a, well, you can't back out now.
The thing is, though, like to your credit, like a lot of young guys, you know, like, and not to shit on backyard wrestling, because a lot of great wrestlers have come from the backyard over the years, but a lot of young guys will be like, oh, I'm going to do a flip from there. You actually trained, you learn how to, you know, do the lion salt and stuff before you realize that, hey, I can do this sort of thing. Like at least you knew that your body was capable of, you know, getting the full rotation sort of thing.
Oh, yeah. Like
Because, like, you know, we don't want Benny the back rower, you know, landing on his head kind of, you know, live on Super Exhibition.
Yeah, well, so Zero and I have a bit of a competition with it.
Mm-hmm.
So Zero's now just, he's just topped me. See, because I went from the edge of the balcony sort of thing. Zero's gone from the railing, like the top of the railing that I was holding on to.
Oh, Jesus.
So, yeah, my next mission is I'm going to put a ladder up there.
Oh, my God. Oh. So how does that work? Are you going to try and moonsault off that, or are you just going to kind of like super fly splash it and just Tyranno to the bottom?
Yeah, probably just super fly splash it.
Very old school ECW, XPW-esque. Nothing could go wrong there. Nothing at all.
I'm starting to realise why women live longer than men, to be honest.
I have this conversation with my wife all the time. It's just like I obviously, like, I can't wrestle anymore, but I'm like, I still do a fair share of stupid shit here and there. It's like, oh, wouldn't it be cool if we did this? And she's like, why? And I'm like, it'd be funny. Be cool. Just kind of shakes her head.
As long as we get it on camera, that's all right.
Exactly right. But you've mentioned you want to kind of, you know, dabble in death matches and stuff like that. But what is like your ultimate like dream stipulation?
Oh, this is an interesting one. I feel I'm not 100%. So I've never actually wrestled outside of like a regular match until this Friday. So I'm not 100% sure at the moment. Like
just kind of
I've always wanted to do like a TLC.
I could get behind that. I feel like, you know, maybe that's where you can get the moonsault off the ladder and moonsault through the table. Hopefully they don't, you know, move out of the way a la Jeff Hardy and you crash and burn.
Oh, yeah. That wouldn't be too fun. But
obviously, you know... Sorry, continue.
Yeah, especially if it would be poor Zero underneath me as well. Like, there's not much to him. But he's tall, but he's not much meat on the bone.
But obviously, you can't actually have all these matches without actually first making an entrance. You've actually just recently had a custom theme song made by Biggie D's. Can you tell us about like when/where we can find that one?
Yeah, so that was actually that's a really interesting story as well. So Biggie D's, I actually was introduced to her as I was looking for sponsorships for my new jerseys. And she actually runs Kickback Clothing, which is my new major sponsor.
Okay, yep.
And we got to talking about her wanting to come to shows and check it out and stuff. I was like, oh, yeah. And I found out that she was a female rap artist from Sydney. I was like, oh, well, you know, if you'd like, you can probably look at doing a theme song for me, and you could come and perform it live and stuff. And she was more than keen to do it. And then she's produced this awesome theme for me, which I can't wait to debut it this Friday.
Yeah, because I saw like the snippet that you put up on social media, and I'm like, I'm not like the biggest like rap guy. I'm more of like a rock guy, but I was like, I dig it. Like, and I could see you coming out to it. Like, I was vibing to it. I'm like, I kind of can't wait to hear the full version of that.
Well, the funny thing is, like, with her coming to perform it live, she's like 6'1",
Okay.
and she's standing next to me, who's like, I'm like 5'6", 5'7".
You'll have to get her to like squat down like they do in the WWE interviews. Tom Phillips is like taller than half the competitors, but he's standing with his legs spread so that he's shorter than them. Oh, Jesus.
So it's going to be interesting, but no, we're hoping to have it released on iTunes in the next couple of weeks, I think. Where I'll have to talk to her a bit about it on Friday. She's travelling up for the show, but yeah, hopefully having it out on all music outlets within the next few weeks so that she can sort of get a gain from it, because it is brilliant. I can't believe how well she's done. Like, she'd done that before her and I'd even met.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Face to face. Yeah, she just called me up, asked me for like a few little bits of information that she could use, and then come up with that and sent it to me.
It's the power of social media, though. Like, as I said, like, you and I, we'd never actually had like a proper conversation outside of organizing this on social media. So that just goes to show that, you know, social media, if you use it right, you can use it as a fantastic tool.
Oh yeah, definitely. Social media these days is like it's the gateway to anything at the moment. Like, if you know what you're doing, you can get anywhere using social media.
The final question, though, Benny, as we kind of start to unwind down here a little bit, we've gone for almost an hour, which is what we're kind of aiming for. I always end these interviews with a non-wrestling question, and I try my best to specifically tailor it to the guest, and this one is definitely aimed just at Benny the Backrower. Could you describe to us, what does the ultimate Mad Monday look like for Benny the Backrower?
Yeah, look. Look, I have actually been on a few of them, and but the crazy weekend. So back in 2014, I played for a team called Teagarden Hawks, and we went right through to the grand final.
Yep.
And that was actually my first year in senior football. And I had no idea what I was about to endure over the next 2 days after that grand final. I'd never seen a Mad Monday, Silly Sunday celebration before in my life. But after that weekend, my life was changed forever. It's the stuff that the boys get up to sometimes. It's crazy.
I'm assuming that after those 2 days, Benny the Backrower would have had a very big headache.
Oh, Benny the Backrower had seen some stuff that he'd never ever seen before.
and probably won't see ever again.
Oh, definitely not.
But did you have any like social media and stuff that you wanted to plug, like your Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube?
Oh yeah. So essentially, just me Facebook and Instagram. Like, it's just Benny the Backrower.
I'll do my best.
I come up pretty.
I'll do my best to remember to link them in the actual episode description as well. I'll make myself a little note about that.
Yeah.
But is there anything else before we wrap this up, Benny, that you wanted to plug? Anything upcoming? Any cool little things you got doing?
So for the ICW show that's coming up in March, I will have a special edition Benny the Backrower jersey tailored especially for the event, the Emma Butler Memorial. The jersey will be purple with the ribbon on it for the specific type of cancer that we're raising awareness for. That will be auctioned off at the show after my match.
I may or may not have had a little birdie tell me about that, because I was telling them I was running some ideas by Octane, and he's like, well, and Benny the back row was doing this with his jersey, and I'm like, okay, well, that's covered.
Yeah, so that's so anyone who listens to this, if you can get down and maybe auction off, like, put some money in towards the auction and try and raise some money for this event, like it's a pretty surreal event for High Octane. Like, it's good on him for running it, but it definitely be tugging on the heartstrings a bit, and definitely want to get down there and do what I can and put my bit in to help. So.
I myself, and this podcast, now that you mention that, is probably, the best place to actually announce this, seeing as how it is my podcast, but I can't confirm, what I'm doing, what matches I'm doing just yet, but I will be returning for one night only as a referee on this show. And obviously, I'll release more details in the future, but I wanted to actually come up with a custom referee shirt just for the night and auction it off. And then Octane's like, well, Benny's doing this with his jersey. And I'm like, okay, no worries. It's all good. But this event, as you say, it's for tongue cancer. It tugs on my heartstrings because it is actually the same type of cancer that my dad passed away from. So no matter what, I'm going to do my best to kind of get there and hopefully raise some money, for the charity made in Emma's name, and hopefully, do our best to fight the fight against this, this specific type of tongue cancer.
Yeah, it's always good to see, like, companies put on the charity shows for it, and it's good to see that, it's a charity now that means something to the company as well, which is mate, as soon as I seen it, I wanted to jump on board and try and help out. Like, it's
it was as I said to my conversation with Octane, and as I said to you at the start of this, like, kudos to you for reaching out and saying, hey, look, like, I'm available, because, like, even especially for this one with the charity, but if one thing we can leave as we end this conversation for people listening is reach out. Like, the worst someone can say is no, right?
Exactly right. That's exactly sort of how it comes out. Like, I'm looking to try and get my name out, and even if I just wrestle all over New South Wales, like, I'd be happy with that. But I do have dreams of wanting to wrestle across the country and in New Zealand.
They've got some pretty good wrestling over in New Zealand as well.
Yeah, they do. And the easiest way I found to get my name out was to just ask.
Yeah, like,
speak to promoters. Just, hey, look, I'm available. I'll come and perform for you. If you've got to give a few freebies and go and perform for free, then do it. Like, it's the only way you're going to get your name out.
But I very
if
much
if you can go and perform a couple of shows for free, and they go, hey, this guy's money, like, this guy's going to draw me money, and they're going to start offering money to keep you coming back.
But I very much do look forward, Benny, to actually getting a chance to meet you in person in Cowra for Western Warfare. As I say, great cause. I look forward to seeing you versus Super Crimson Mask. As I said, football player or no football player, watch out for that headbutt. But thanks for coming on, dude. Thanks for doing it. It's so early in the bloody morning. Like, it's almost 10:30 a.m. as we wrap this up here. I'm hoping you enjoy the rest of your day. I hope 2022 gives you everything you want. I hope, and as I said, I don't doubt that you will tick off a lot of those bucket list, items that you have. I kind of dread seeing the deathmatch ones, because I know how brutal all the guys, that you've listed in that deathmatch category can be. But just thanks for coming on, dude. Like, as I said, we've never met before, so this was extremely nerve-wracking for me, talking to basically a complete stranger, but hopefully it won't be the last time that gets, branch out here on the podcast.
Just nice to look, man. Thanks for having me.
And ladies and gentlemen, that was Benny the Back Rower. Catch you later, mate.
See you, mate.
That was a whole lot of fun, and as I mentioned in the actual conversation, I cannot wait to meet Benny in person. I'm just so keen to keep watching him grow as a competitor, both here in New South Wales and all over the country as well. I look forward to seeing the growth of Revolution Wrestling over in Adelaide, and I wish nothing but the best of luck to Benny and the other guys making the interstate trip over there for that one. Once again, the song of the week was Unsaid by Citizen Soldier. The match of the week, once again, was The Rock versus Hulk Hogan, Hollywood Hogan, at WrestleMania 18. Remember to check the links in the description below. I have a handful of Facebook pages in the link tree that you should definitely check out. And of course, the most important part of this week's episode is make sure you check out all of Benny the Backrower's social media as well, which is also below. Thanks one more time to Benny for coming on. I definitely cannot wait to see what the future holds. I'm sounding like a crack record, but the dude just has so much talent, so much potential. I am the essential John L. Crossfire, and you were just caught in conversation.